Knights at the Round Table, a round-table discussion on speculative fiction books and film. Hi everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Knights at the Round Table. Today we are discussing the 2011 comic book adaptation Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm sitting at the table with Bill and with Martin, and I'd like to start off with general impressions of the film. Martin, you get to go first.
Absolutely. So I think that this movie is a little bit more complex to talk about now because it's one of the first iteration of superhero movies. You can call it phase one, I think, is where it sits. And so it's good, but it's not that good anymore. And 2011 me loves this movie. 2018 me is kind of like, wow, some people did it better.
Bill?
Yeah, going back in time. No, I enjoyed the movie. It's definitely a good movie in my mind. Like old Martin, it is probably one of the first of the superhero movies of this genre anyways. And it was an enjoyable watch.
So same for me. I loved it in 2011, like an obscene amount in 2011. Not the same sort of, oh my god, this is fantastic kind of vibes this time around, but I still really loved it. And there's a lot to unpack in this movie that you wouldn't necessarily think about when you're watching like an action adaptation of a comic book. But there was a lot to unpack, and I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of what I'm about to unpack.
Dum dum dum.
So, let's get started. No, it's not that big a deal. The thing I liked most about this movie is how everything about it is so hyper-masculine. But the character of Captain America himself is not this toxic masculine moron that you would expect to be the lead of an action movie like this. He's kind, he's gentle, he's shy around women, he's unsure of himself around people a lot of the times. He just knows how to kick ass thanks to genetic mutations experiments. Like, I really enjoyed that. He's the physical manifestation of everything hyper-masculine, and it turns out he's actually just a really decent, kind dude. Rather than the usual toxic tropes we're used to.
That's totally fair. I mean, this is, to me, is kind of one of the weird ones where you get the ability to inject somebody with a serum that is definitely not super steroids and turn them into another man, and then that is A-okay. So kids, if you're wimpy at home, there's a pill for that.
There's not, because it's fiction.
Yeah. Steve Rogers did it, and he gets a great dance number in it, and it's fine.
Oh god, that was so cringe, that whole sequence. I think it was supposed to be cringe, but I cringed really hard this time around.
I mean, it's, I like it. I think it's funny that we get to see these things. I think it's one of the early attempts where they're trying to tie everything together. So you have Tony Stark's father is in there, Howard Stark, and it's trying to create that greater universe. And I don't think they had quite hit all of their beats on how to do it yet.
No, they hadn't figured it out by this point. I'm so certain. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, they didn't hit all the points, but
it was still fun.
Yeah. Also, this is the movie that ended Hugo Weaving's run in speculative films. He's not doing them anymore. Fantasy, sci-fi, nope, won't do them. And it's because of this movie. I think it was because of the stupid amount of hours he had to spend in the makeup chair. But he did say publicly that he's never doing it again.
He said much worse things than that.
That's
Yeah.
Totally fair. I think it kicks off Marvel's forgettable villain problem. Because, I mean, the Red Skull is an iconic villain who's just kind of there now. And, I mean, this is a problem that Marvel has struggled with for years, how to make a villain credible, and I think they've started to get that in the last few films, but this was really finding their feet, and did they use some of their best villains too early? in order to set up some of this, and I'm not sure if the Red Skull would have been better saved for somewhere else.
Or at least left alive to come back.
Yeah.
I mean...
The plan was, but Hugo Weaving refused.
Thanks, voice. Yeah,
From
the plan
the
was...
voice from the ether.
But Hugo Weaving did refuse, and you can tell by the end of the movie, he wasn't destroyed by the Tesseract, he was basically teleported.
Yeah.
You know, on a note of that, though, he's an actor in a mask. If you had to replace him...
Slogan!
Of the characters that you can replace, like, replacing Captain America is a very different task where you're like, Steve Rogers does not look the same. You could find a man with a very similar build to Hugo Weaving, have Captain America throat punch him once, and then, he sounds different now, and I think we would all be good with that.
Well, it didn't work for Batman, though.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm just saying your supervillains are characters that are easy to replace. The ones that are very, very made up, I think it's easier to swap them in for another actor.
That's true. Although, I have to say, I did enjoy Hugo Weaving in this. I think he does have the right kind of gravitas to make this kind of ridiculous villain seem a little more believable.
Right.
Yeah. I know there was plans. I think they wanted to introduce Logan, Wolverine. And I can't remember his human name, Magneto.
Yes.
They wanted to introduce him, but they had licensing issues.
Yeah.
Because it was different filming.
That's it, yeah, because Fox owns X-Men.
Yeah. So
I mean, you used to. Or now Disney
owns Fox. So now Disney owns X-Men.
Yeah. Actually, I think Disney owns Marvel, too, to some extent.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Disney does own Marvel, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't Sony own Disney?
And so, my future prediction is in the next Avengers movie, when they beat Thanos, there's going to be a cataclysmic explosion that's going to cause people to mutate, and suddenly mutants are in the Marvel universe. That's my thought. There's no validation, no industry speculation on that. That's just my storyline. So, my fanfic, that's how mutants come into the world. And then we'll find older mutants like Wolverine somehow, and they'll make up a reason. It's fine.
Although, I have to say, Marvel consistently knocks their movies out of the park. They do such a good job with turning something that is, on paper, kind of ridiculous, and making you really care about the characters. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Hugh Jackman is considering reprising his role as Wolverine if he gets to be a part of the Marvel Universe.
That is bad news for anybody that wanted to be Wolverine.
Yep. It'd be maybe for one movie, because he's not getting any younger. It's gotta be awful trying to get your body into that kind of shape every single time.
But, you can, deviating here, you can watch the first X-Men and the latest Logan, and there's a difference. There's a reason they did Old Man Logan for this one was a good choice.
Yes.
There's normal human who may be a little athletic to Jesus Christ, I can see every fiber of that muscle. Yeah.
But I think we're going off on a tangent.
Marvel tangent. Yeah.
I think one of the reasons though that this movie doesn't hold up as well is that there is a basically shot-for-shot remake that happens called Wonder Woman, and it is way better. I mean, just think of the first scene where Steve Rogers appears and he's in his Captain America kit and kicks open the door, Captain America, versus when Wonder Woman steps over the trench and you're like, oh yeah! It's just better.
But the wrong universe.
Yeah, I mean, like, think of Captain America kicking and punching some zombies, and then Wonder Woman throwing a tank at people and charging through a wall with her shield. I'm just saying of red, white, and blue characters wearing shields fighting in a war. Maybe somebody was able to bring the emotion and the gravitas of that a lot more. I mean, Steve Rogers and his plucky band of friends versus Wonder Woman dancing in the town. You're like, and he loses Bucky versus the whole town.
Oh, yeah, that's the thing. Bucky's death, the first time I watched this and watching it now, Bucky's death did not hit nearly as hard as it should have.
Yeah.
There was something missing. I don't know what it was, but when Bucky
it was death.
died...
Like,
No, I didn't know that the first time watching it. When Bucky died,
I know, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's sad. But I wasn't like, no.
Yeah.
The way I was when, like, Steve, fighter pilot from Wonder Woman, when he died, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. But in a way, that was a turning moment for Wonder Woman.
Yeah. It just...
Whereas with
Bucky, yeah.
Bucky, it was... I'm not quite sure. He just didn't react the same.
No,
there
it was like...
Yeah, I think it was...
We lost him off the train. Sucks, Steve. Yeah, it's bad. And then let's go fight some Nazis. Like,
just...
Wonder Woman just crying outside of the town. Like, what did you do? Why would you do this? Why would you stop me? Like, oh, yeah, this is horrible. And, like, other Steve from Wonder Woman being like, I've got no idea. Like, So, that's what I say is, like, a Phase 1 movie, it was excellent. 2011 me loves this movie. If you give me a choice today of watching a superhero war movie, I think I'm going to pick the other superhero war movie.
I would watch them both back to back. I have an enduring love for Captain America. I think the way he's portrayed in this, rather than just being... Anyway, point is, instead of just being like a goody two-shoes, yes sir kind of person, they really did turn Cap into somebody who's a bit more complex, and it isn't just your pretty boy punching Hitler kind of trope that you would expect him to be. There's a lot going on underneath the surface, and I think they did a really good job. Not so much in this movie, where it is just him being a pretty boy punching Hitler in the face, pretty much. but still, as a character,
it sets
I really
the stage for
him.
the next ones.
Yeah, it does. It sets the stage really well for the next ones. And
a really good point is, when you look at this, Captain America benefits of being one of the few superheroes whose movies have gotten progressively better and better and better with every single one. And, I mean, they're amazing. Even if you consider Age of Ultron as the low point for Captain America, that's still a good film. Like,
yeah, it's not bad.
And his personal trilogy for that, to Winter Soldier, to Civil War, like... Captain America,
the Captain America trilogy is brilliant.
Oh, it's
the three
awesome.
Movies? Agreed.
So, will I take that, the first Avenger is kind of the weakest of them, knowing that I'm getting 2 and all the ancillary movies that are even better?
Well, it's better than typical trilogy type stuff where you get the best one first and then they just go downhill from there.
That's it.
Agreed.
So it's always nice to be able to go forward and enjoy the whole thing a lot better.
Yeah. I really want to talk about Agent Carter in this. I love her so much. Haley Atwell did a fantastic job. I loved that in this comic book movie, all about how heroic the main masculine hero is. She shoots really well. She's super brave. She's very clever. And she's not afraid to go against orders in order to get the job done. And I just love her to pieces. The end.
That's a very fair statement. I think you should add in she has a complicated relationship with her daughter/granddaughter in the future. Who looks like with Steve.
That's her niece.
Okay, that's her niece. Either way, it's weird intergenerational love.
When the kiss happened in that movie, I was just like, not sure. But it's that way in the comic books, I understand.
Well,
not quite as awkward.
Yeah.
But that's
it's
Captain
okay
America.
for Steve.
He's awkward.
Yeah, he's coming from the 40s. Like, that's still fine to marry a cousin back then. He's from rural Nebraska. It's just in on this.
If you're royalty, it's still fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also really liked how comic book this character was. It didn't forget that it had started its life as a comic book. And so there are some things where it probably might have taken it a little more seriously if they had not been so self-aware, but they didn't take it that seriously because comic book. So there are a lot of action pieces where I'm like, that's silly, but also wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I think, it does address a lot of its roots, like using comic books to sell war bonds and to try to...
oh my god, that was so meta. The Captain America comic in the Captain America movie.
Oh, it was... But that was what comic books were designed for back then, was to get...
Yeah. Well, that comic book they showed in the movie was the #1 edition of Captain America.
Yeah, it was the first edition.
Yeah. So, it's the very first one, so... Yeah, I do like. You're right. I did like Haley Atwell as Agent Carter. There was one scene in there. I think it was just after he'd gone through the procedure, and she had gone up to him and she sort of touched his chest.
Oh, she almost did. She's kind of like.
Believe it or not, she's actually admitted that was impulse. Actually, not scripted. It was impulse. That's all. So I thought that was kind of neat.
Oh my God, you're built. Let me touch.
I knew you'd get a kick out of that one.
She'd only seen CGI him before that, so she couldn't help
Yeah,
herself,
right.
Yeah, that's
Little
how that
tiny
works,
wee-
right?
He's still skinny. Lots of funny lines that were really well pulled off in this one.
Yeah.
My favorite is the he's still skinny after the grenade incident. I watched this movie by myself, and you generally don't laugh at jokes when you're by yourself because it's for some reason a communal thing. Welcome to being a primate. But I burst out laughing. He's still skinny.
I love Tommy Lee Jones in that
Oh, he was
role.
so good.
Yeah,
he was really good in this
really
role.
good.
Actually, the whole thing was expertly cast.
I have a question for the military expert. The flag falling down onto the ground, wouldn't that be a court-martial?
Nope. It wasn't. It wasn't a national flag.
Oh, it wasn't the national flag?
Nope. It was just a marker flag.
Okay, carry on.
Very different movie too.
Yeah, really. But I liked that scene because again, it illustrated what kind of a person Steve was.
Yeah.
And it carried through. Even when he became brawn, he still used his brains.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciated.
It also was sort of a bit of foreshadow because the super soldier program never really died throughout after the movie ended. There were other programs, but they always went to the soldier, the bully type soldier. For this, and it always failed, right?
Or it succeeded, but in the worst possible way.
Yeah. So for some reason the psychological aspects were torn out or whatever.
And I love that they highlighted that. The doctor, whose name I can't remember.
Stanley Tucci.
That's the actor.
Yeah, Stanley Tucci, when selecting the candidate for the initial trial, selected Steve not because he was the best soldier, but because he was the best man. And there's a big, big difference between the two. And I love that they talked about it in this movie. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's a great point. That it does go to the best man or the person that embodies the most. We can call them American values, but.
Yeah.
Most compassionate value.
Yeah.
They talk
There's
about,
an air quotes reason there.
Yeah. They talk about having compassion and how what happens in here is just as important as what's going on everywhere else. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, he does then just crash a plane into the ice so we can debate how successful he was in his missions.
I mean, well,
but the reason why he crashed it into the ice is different.
He saved millions and millions of lives in so doing.
Yes.
I think they need to learn how to deal with airplane bombs. This happens a lot in movies.
I know.
When their only option is to plow it into the ocean.
I don't know, flying into space or something.
Yeah, or just like some other area. You should be able to diffuse it.
Out.
Yeah.
Can't fly it into space. It wouldn't get that high.
No, I know.
The engines would die before it got up there.
Comic
books, yes. Sorry.
He survived after 70 years in the ice. They probably could have figured out a way to get the plane into space.
He got cold really fast. That's how cryogenic freezing works. Any of your family members that have ever gotten hypothermia,
But there was also a hint on that in the fact that he found that since the procedure that he didn't get hurt, or when he got hurt, he healed quickly. He didn't feel the same pain, stuff like that. So
couldn't get drunk.
Poor
bugger.
Yeah. So maybe
that's probably a very good thing. As somebody who's the peak of total physicality, getting absolutely wrecked in a bar would be really bad.
You thought the Hulk was awful.
Yeah, drunk PTSD Steve Rogers is terrifying.
So I guess when they were doing the Small Steve filming, they actually filmed each shot with him in it 4 times. Sorry. Every time where the character was supposed to be in it 4 times. Right. Once with him in it, once with basically nobody there, somebody else that was sort of portraying him, and I can't remember what the 4th one was.
I do recall that he was on his knees a lot during the filming.
Well, part of it was that is whenever he was interacting with somebody, they had to adjust the heights.
Yeah.
But when he really wasn't interacting, he was just there. that's the purpose of doing the four different shots.
Yeah.
Was so that
I think they need a
they
background slate. They needed one of him with
Yeah.
the other guy, and then one where they can
Which
blend them together. And
which is interesting because you would think when they're doing 4 shots and then trying to blend them in, you'd have a lot of continuity errors that people would pick up, and I don't think they did.
no,
I didn't. Again, because I love Captain America so much, I get really invested in watching anything to do with Captain America. So I wouldn't pick up on the mistakes, even if they were there. It's not like I get bored during filming, watching the movie, and I'm looking at the scenery going, ah, ha, 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 that bird appeared from nowhere, ha ha, continuity error. It's not something that I do.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. And I think the shots are reasonably fast and reasonably good cuts. So you don't have a lot of time to be looking at, or there's not like an open background shot a lot.
Yeah.
They're mostly in a lab or in a training environment where you can contain that reasonably well, so you don't have like a bird mid shot.
Suddenly pops on screen.
Yeah, like some of the other errors that seem to pop up in other movies is I'm holding this here, and then the next shot it's in here.
Yeah.
You know, those types of.
Although there's Peter Jackson, I recall, loves those kind of continuity errors and will always include a few in his films, just because every time the editor picks up on it, he's like, leave it.
See, I think that's a brilliant move as a director, is you say you love them, you throw a couple of them in, and then if anyone calls you out on another one, you're like, yeah, totally meant to leave that. I love those things. It's really funny. Good catch, by the way. Dick.
Also, I love that in true sound design tradition, they included a Wilhelm scream. I call it the bike helm scream. When the guy falls off the bike, it's a Wilhelm scream as it goes tumbling down.
Yeah.
It was great. Every time I hear one now, I can't help but chuckle. That said, there were some really dumb moments, particularly at the climax of the film, where I'm just like, why? You were so good up until this point. Red Skull, you're supposed to be brainy. Why did you pick up the Tesseract with nothing between you and the Tesseract? That was so dumb. You are dumb. This is annoying.
Yeah. Well, in order to get a PG-13 rating, they've got to have Nazis with space lasers going at it. It wouldn't be good if Steve's whole platoon just ran into a line of guys with bullets, so let's give them space lasers.
That vaporize everybody into ash.
Yeah, but don't hit anything. They're just...
They're
you've all been
stormtroopers.
enhanced.
They're stormtroopers.
Unfortunately, it's just giving you the horrible shape.
A good number of people were vaporized. Not that many, to be honest. Yeah. But
did anyone that mattered get vaporized?
No.
Yeah.
Of course, nobody that mattered would get vaporized.
I'm
just
pretty
singed.
Sure. Just singed.
Don't the super Nazis get changed in the end of it, so they're not quite human anymore? So killing them is okay, like the henchmen. Doesn't the Tesseract change them?
Oh, I missed that entirely.
I may be totally making that up.
No, we're getting agreement from behind the camera. Yeah.
So it's okay then to kill them because now they're kind of like Nazi robot people and they're not real humans.
But did that come out in the movie?
I don't think it was explicitly stated in the movie.
Yeah.
I missed it entirely. But no, you're probably right. Yeah.
So,
but also not right because... Although, I don't know. My relationship to Nazis is so complex. Every time I see one get punched, I can't say I'm sad about it.
No, I mean, definitely the takeaway from this movie is not be sympathetic to the Nazis Steve is punching. That's not my argument. It's that they turn them into robots, and it's okay to punch them on screen and kill them then.
Something else,
For the PG rating.
Yeah, that's exactly it. There's.
Right.
I was not making a sympathetic Nazi argument.
Your argument was more if they become a Nazi, they become a monster.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, accurate. They had a really nice bookend. I don't know why I'm noticing these bookends more when I'm watching films, probably because of this panel. But in the first scene where Steve is getting beat up in the alley behind the cinema, he picks up a rubbish bin lid and uses that as a shield. And then in one of the final scenes, there's a little kid with a rubbish bin lid that's painted with the shield of Captain America.
Yeah.
It was such a cute little bookend. I'm like, aw, that's lovely, filmmakers. Nice touch. I appreciated it.
I did too, and I think as kids, like, it used to be that you all had those rubbish bin lids like that, and so my brothers and I had shields that were rubbish bin lids for a long time, and I think that was something that a lot of people could identify with, of being
We didn't have rubbish bin lids like that.
No,
We had a wheelie bin. We couldn't use that lid.
You could have used the whole bin.
Oh, what? The whole bin, yeah.
Come on, Australia. Just hold up everything.
They touched very briefly on racism, which is awesome. When Captain America rescues everybody from the first facility, and some guy goes, well, we're just taking anyone now, and the Asian guy pulls out his dog tags and is like, I'm from Fresno, Ace. I'm like, yes!
Yeah.
Thank you for touching on that, even though it was very brief. And then he got to be one of the Howling Commandos, so that was nice. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I picked this movie apart from all sorts of social stuff.
No, but I think that's important, especially given the context of our times now. Yeah. Comments like that still go a long way.
Yeah. Christ, Captain America would be so depressed with the state of the world currently.
Especially America.
Yeah.
I don't know. He was alive in the 40s. Like, life was empirically worse then.
I mean, yes, that's true. But, you know...
40s versus now, like, there are social problems, but I like to think we've made progress versus regression.
I would like to think so too, but Nazis holding open rallies in the streets. So, not so much.
Now I can't buy tiki torches.
Yeah, I know! White guy buying a tiki torch. You're in trouble.
Damn it.
Last thing I'm going to say that I really loved about this film is at the end scene with Steve and Peggy talking over the comm. I cried, and it might have just been my 2 glasses of wine that I had when I was watching this, but I cried the first time I saw it in the cinema too. It was genuinely touching.
So are you saying you have 2 glasses of wine a lot? Or...
No.
Did you have 2 glasses of wine in the cinema too?
No, I had a couple of glasses of wine before the cinema.
So what we've narrowed it down to is it's the wine.
It's the wine. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you didn't like about the movie before we move on to star rating and final thoughts?
Like I say, it's a phase 1 movie. There's clunky bits at times. The loss of Bucky is considered like, oh no, he's fallen off the train. Like, there was never really any stakes that you felt like you could lose somebody of interest. It's still Marvel very much finding its footing, but it is a great film in the trilogy of Captain America because it allows you to build so much on it that it's hard to really criticize when it's not like, oh, the movies went downhill or up and down like Iron Man. Like, this gets consistently better, so you can really say, well, it is a great foundational stone. I don't go into the basement of many people's houses to look at their foundations, but I'm always happy to admire the exterior. So just start at Winter Soldier, guys. You're fine. And then if you're curious, come back to this movie.
Oh, fair enough. Well.
After that, I don't think I have anything else to say.
Okay, so then we'll start with your star rating.
I'm going to give it a 4. I enjoyed the movie. I'll watch it again. Maybe in line with the rest, because I actually haven't watched the rest in a while. So, but yeah, 4 right.
4.
I'm going to give it a 3. It's a perfectly okay movie to watch if you don't have access to Wonder Woman.
I'm going to give it a 3.5 because right in the middle. I still really love this movie, but there are bits that just ticked me off a little bit, like the picking up the Tesseract, Red Skull. Why? You're supposed to be smart. Yeah. So there's a lot about this film I love so much. So I'm giving it a 3.5. Definitely going to add it to my collection. Who wants to pick the next one?
Go for it, Bill.
If you have any thoughts about Captain America, the First Avenger, leave them in the comments below. I lurk there sometimes. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much, guys. Bye!
Bye.
Take care!
It's also my fault.
Sonia, always talking over people.
I know, it's ridiculous.
We want to make a show about opinions, but don't have any.